Great. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you to those in the audience and to the many people online. Thank you. I don't know who I'm speaking to, where they are in the ether, for joining us today. So my name is Ollie de Botton. I'm the Chief Executive of the Careers and Enterprise Company, and we are the national body for careers education, and we're on a mission, as I know you are, and I know as these panelists are, to help every young person find their best next step. And what do we mean by that? And what are the operative words? The first one is every, and the next one is best. Every, because we want every young person to feel inspired about their future, to have the information they need to get on. And best means the obvious point, which I think is that young people are going to pursue different pathways. And the job of careers is to help them find the right pathway for them. So we're joined by the most extraordinary panel of pioneers, of leaders, as fire starters, who I think are the ones who are leading a revolution in careers, I would say. When I took on this job, most of my close family thought I was slightly mad. They said, careers education? What, you mean you go to the library and someone tells you you should be an engineer, but really you wanted to be a scientist? Or you had a work experience where someone told you to make the tea and you were bored? So you know, people didn't want me to take this job, but of course that is not the case. And what you'll hear today is that modern careers education is something very different, something very powerful, and something that I think is important for young people. And so I'd say we've made progress in that, in vision terms. We've got a huge amount more to do together, and hopefully today will be part of that taking us forward. At the CEC, we try and support the system, and we have four things we think need to change, or four things we think need to improve. And I'll just quickly say what they are, and then put the conversation we're about to have in that context. So the first thing is about, we want to make sure that for employers, and we've got Pfizer here, the outreach that they're doing to young people leads to intake. So what we mean by that is that when an employer is going into a school and working with young people, it's done with real purpose and real rigor, and for a business reason. What better way to start your HR process than in year 7? Now, I mean that slightly jokingly, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. We want the outreach that happens across the country to be meaningful and impactful for young people and the businesses. The second thing that we're focused on is making sure that in careers we have coverage. We've got careers hubs everywhere. We've got careers leaders everywhere to quality, because world class is not just about all the systems you have in place, but about making sure the provision is absolutely high quality for every learner. And the third thing we want to do, which is what today is about, and is the one I'm most excited about, is we need careers to be in the mainstream, not at the margins. Less like first aid and more like safeguarding, part of the curriculum, part of teacher training, on the agenda for parents, because we think that's how, in the end, when we're all gone, this agenda, this important agenda, will outlive us. So hopefully today we'll hear from how that's happening across the country and how we can all work together to make a difference. So I'll hand over to Ruben. Thank you very much for joining. Of course, we'll be around after to take feedback, love notes, criticisms as ever, but I'll pass over to Ruben now. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ollie. And again, it's a real privilege to be part of this today. So thank you so much for the invitation and to have so many people in the room and online today. So my name is Ruben Moore. I'm the Executive Director of Programmes at the National Institute of Teaching. Excellence in inspiring teacher engagement. It's an ambitious title. However, we have the panel here that will really guide us through it. And I think the wonderful thing about this panel is that they see it from a number of different perspectives, but complementary perspectives. Because I think for me, there's no issue around teachers not valuing careers education. I think everybody values it. The challenge is, how do we make it inspiring? How do we make it embedded within the curriculum? How do we make it work within the curriculum? And as I say, I think that's why this panel is so brilliant, because at different stages, at different layers of that jigsaw, to kind of make it right, make it inspiring, and make it impactful for those teachers and leaders, but ultimately for the pupils that they serve. So I'm going to crack on then. So Victoria. Now, Victoria, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
And you're going to briefly introduce yourself. But again, I think the thing that I'm really interested, Victoria, to start us off, is why is linking careers across the curriculum valuable in a college setting?
Yeah.
And that kind of, what is the relationship of you as a college to that kind of local workforce.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to be here. My name's Victoria. I'm the Head of Engagement and Careers Lead at Lancaster and Wellcome College. So just to give you a bit of context, our college is a small general FE college in the northwest, in Lancashire. We recruit mainly from Lancaster and Morecambe, so city, seaside town, but we also recruit a number of learners from North Yorkshire and South Cumbria as well, so quite rural as well. So it's a wide range of learners that we work with. We took the decision a number of years ago to really focus on technical and vocational education. One of the reasons for that is that in the area where we were based, we have a high number of schools with sixth forms, 3 very high performing sixth form schools as well. So that focus for us around technical vocational education was one that helped us focus, and means that the tutors that we bring in and the people who are working with us and who are teaching our learners are experts in their field. They're coming from that industry, and many of them are still working in their sectors. So we have plumbing tutors who work 3 days a week delivering apprenticeships and qualifications for full-time learners, and actually for adult part-time learners. But they're also working, they still have their plumbing business, so they're also, mending your boiler or fitting your kitchens and your bathrooms at weekends and in the evenings. Same with our hair and beauty, with our hospitality and catering tutors. And because of that, that means that they are still working in that sector. They're still bringing in that very relevant, very current sector information. And it's fluid. It's happening in the classroom every day. And if you ask our learners, they wouldn't even necessarily think of it as careers. They would just say that they are learning about the sector and learning all those skills and that knowledge and that behaviour that they are going to need when they progress onto employment. So for us, it works really well. And I know we're in a good position because we're an FE college, and it's a bit different if you're working in a school. The other thing we do have as well is a really vibrant employer engagement team. So that's the other side of it. They're going out and they're working with local, regional, national employers. They're building those relationships. They're doing training needs analysis with them to see where the skill gaps are. And then we're bringing that back in, and we're having conversations about how we can build that into our curriculum to make sure that actually when our learners leave, they are leaving with those skills that employers want. And we're also helping to upskill the local workforce by doing a lot of short courses, full cost courses, and actual careers engagement with employers and their workforce as well. So it's a whole picture, really.
Excellent. Yeah. So very, very holistic. And I love that thing is the pupils or the learners don't see it as careers, they see it as the learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Okay, we're going to now hear from an employer perspective. So, Steph, really interested to kind of, what is the real value of an employer engaging with schools and colleges through co-design of resources and also that outreach activity? And I think again, I'm really interested to know, there's the interview answer, and there's kind of, why do I really do it? Why are you as an employer, why are you so invested in this? Go ahead, Steph.
Thanks, Ruben. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm Steph Barnes from Pfizer. I'm here today as the project lead on Breakthrough Science, which is our new Pfizer STEM education program. It's all about inspiring science. It's all about getting into classrooms and actually showing young people what is out there and what the power of science is. Our tagline is all about inspiring the students behind the next life-changing breakthrough, hence Breakthrough Science. And we've created a suite of lesson resources for students age 11 to 16 broadly, but also can be kind of flexed around that for science teachers and careers leaders across the country. What's been really, really, really valuable about this program is the collaboration that we've had throughout. So we've been working with 3 different partners, the Careers and Enterprise Company, who have then brought in the Academy's Enterprise Trust, so real science teachers who've been working on the program with us. And thirdly, the National Institute for Health and Care Research, who are the NIHR for short. They're leaders in clinical research. They're experts in transferring clinical research from kind of pharmaceutical companies and healthcare businesses into the healthcare system and getting that research completed in a collaborative way. And what's been integral about that co-design with all 3 of those partners is we've been able to create a program that is curriculum first, so with the science teachers' expertise, actually embedded throughout the program. And then also bring in our expertise in real life applications of science, real people that work in science. And that's actually created a really impactful program that we feel and know actually, based on the results, we've had over 1,000 teachers already download the program, is really impactful, nationally reaching, and is meeting a need for teachers of bringing careers into the curriculum and really meeting Gatsby Benchmark 4, which is kind of where it all came from. And actually, that was part of the benefit of working with the CEC. They told us this is what is important to schools, this is what is important to teachers, what they need to achieve. And we said, that's amazing. We can do that. We have this information. We know about careers in science. We have people that have careers in science. So we created the Breakthrough Science program, which is 4 different lessons. And actually, alongside that as well, have a video series called Science Stories, which is 10 different videos, little 2-minute clips of different individuals and their career pathways actually in the science sector. But not everyone's a scientist, and that's what's brilliant about this program, is it shows you more about the scientific skills. We were talking earlier about transferable skills, and that's actually the future of employment, and how we're going to really grow the future workforce is skills-based rather than knowledge-based. And that's what this program delivers.
Excellent, thank you. And that idea about the close collaboration, again, how do we make it work in schools? That curriculum first, and the accessibility that you've talked about. Absolutely wonderful, brilliant. And Steph, I'm not meaning this to sound like a plug, but these are freely available, aren't they?
They are freely available
to download for all. Okay, so it's great. We should, but again, I mean, I'm thinking about this as, from my teaching days. That's a treasure trove, for any of us, and therefore really, really important. Okay, now we're going to hear from Fawzia. So Fawzia, from the teacher's perspective. So Fawzia, tell us a little bit about, kind of as a subject teacher, why did you first consider sort of embedding careers across the curriculum as a way to kind of really impact sort of pupil or learner engagement? And I suppose that the thing that I'm really wrestling with, and I know many colleagues will be, is that how do we make sure it's not another thing to do as well as your vitally important maths lessons? So Fawzia, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Fawzia Rather. I'm a teacher of mathematics. I teach at a school called Manchester Communication Academy. It's based in the north of Manchester. We serve quite a socially deprived area. We're constantly working hard, striving to raise aspirations and mitigate the impact of social disadvantage. And I very first thought about embedding careers into the curriculum because I quite often got asked, as a maths teacher, when am I going to use this in real life? Where am I going to see this? Why am I learning this? So it made me think that we need to ensure students are seeing the bigger picture so they can see their end goal. What they are learning now is in fact going to help them in the future, because it's not only the mathematical skill they're picking up in the classroom, it's a number of other skills that come along with that. And another thing I really thought about was that students generally talk about careers or talk about a job. They wait till they're in year 11 or maybe year 10. They also see it as they don't really talk about it in a curriculum subject. They might wait for a careers lesson or maybe an assembly. That's the only, we talk about careers then. So I wanted to try and encourage students to openly talk about their careers within a maths lesson. Talk about your future within a maths lesson. So they don't have to wait, oh no, it's maths, we're just doing maths. You teach a lot of transferable skills within that. And by introducing careers in the curriculum, also the real life uses of where you are going to use this skill, it's changing the student's mindset of they can all of a sudden see that picture, they can relate it to real life. And also at the same time, we're giving them that full set of transferable skills, which they can carry on no matter which area they're going to. Quite often, don't get me wrong, when we're discussing careers, you will get students that say, Miss, but I don't actually want to take that path. I don't want to do this career. So that's when we talk about every career we show them always has organizational skills, communication skills, teamwork skills. It's a common theme in all of them. So they realize, oh, okay, in the real world, I do need to have these skills anyway, and they'll be really, really important from an employer's perspective. So any school really, we just want to equip themselves with a full set of transferable soft skills that they can flourish wherever they go. So we've put them out, we've trained them from year 7 right to 11, and we're putting them out into that big world to just go and fly. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. My goodness, that's what we want. We want all of them to fly and flourish. Absolutely excellent, thank you. So next on our panel is Helen. And Helen, you have a kind of dual perspective because you're not only a teacher but also a careers leader. So therefore, really interesting, why have you gone down the route of incorporating teacher development into your school's strategy? Why is that significant? Because again, I'm sure there's a million things that could be chosen for the strategy, but you focused on that as an area. So tell us why that is.
That's right. Yes, I'm Helen Hill. I'm a careers leader and a business and economics teacher at the Misbourne in Buckinghamshire. In the past, I think careers was seen very much as a careers leader's job. You did your careers with your careers leader, but it's really important to embed it across the whole school. And we found when we surveyed our students that they got most of their information from their parents, but were then persuaded and guided by their teachers. But a lot of the teachers would come to me when their children were that age asking for advice. So if the teachers haven't got the advice, how can they then advise the students? So we have put a program in place in us for CPD, and we've got that with the ECT teachers so that they can understand their responsibility right from the beginning. And then also we have quite a churn of staff, so we need to keep that CPD going, because you think you've got it, then somebody leaves, and then you have to start it again. So we've really trained those teachers to put the information into all of their schemes of learning. So if they do leave, we don't have to go back to the beginning again. And for some subjects, it's quite easy to get careers in the curriculum. Business and economics, you can see those direct links very easily. There's a lot with STEM and maths, but some of the curriculum areas struggle. When we went on our teacher encounters with Capgemini, I took a history teacher and an English teacher, and they didn't really know where their subject took them. They just went into teaching straight from university. So it was great. Capgemini brought some history graduates in and some English graduates, and really highlighted the skills that they were learning in their lessons. And those teachers have then gone on to inspire their children in the lessons to say it can take you onto these pathways. Doing history doesn't mean that you're going to be a history teacher or working in a museum. What other skills are they doing? So it's really important to get across all of those curriculum areas to share that knowledge.
Excellent. Really interesting to hear. And I think we're going to come back to teacher encounter. So I'm not going to ask you about that yet, but I think we will come back to that. I think what's also really interesting is the kind of the embedding of it in schemes of work, because that means that the knowledge is captured somewhere rather than us reinventing every year or whatever. Okay, great, thank you. And now finally, but certainly not it's sort of not most importantly, but as important as the rest, Peter, so from a head's perspective, I think really interesting to kind of understand from you, what do you see as the value to your school in dedicating resource to careers and supporting teacher engagement? Because again, I suppose, I know I'll keep coming back to this, but when there is so much to do in our schools, therefore every decision we make, something's not happening. So therefore, this one, why did you dedicate the kind of resource to it?
It's mainly to places like this room and have coffee and pastries on a Friday. That was the mission originally. Don't minute that, as we say. No, that for me, we've talked about mission before, and we've talked about fire starters and setting fire to initiatives. I think we should set fire to all initiatives, because it's a terrible word. I'd set fire to tick boxing as well, and box ticking and go. During the pandemic, I read something that talked about the role of the head teacher was to interfere in the civic infrastructures. And that really sort of resonated with me. And as an English teacher, the notion of infrastructures plural, because I'd always seen infrastructure as a singular. And it made me think while I was sat in my kitchen and walking around the street, what are the infrastructures that I can influence as a head teacher? Because unfortunately, as a head teacher, you do influence whether you like it or not. And you can influence well or you can influence badly, but you can't not influence. And I started to rethink my job in terms of what are the core things that are going to make a difference and affect the mission, as Ollie said before. And I think careers education is one of the key ones, and is perhaps the most civic. It has the most civic influence because it goes far beyond 11 to 16 in my case. It goes on to 11 to the grave, I suppose. It's about the quality of life. The big question for me out of the work with the Careers and Enterprise company came from my Careers and Enterprise advisor. And we had a discussion about what the labour market wants and what employers want, and then what schools are producing. And I would suggest that there's a disjoint or a dysfunction or a gap between what schools are interested in and what the market wants and what society needs, I would say. And serving a school of very high disadvantage, what sort of curriculum are we offering to our students? And it's that I've tried to interfere in. It's that I've tried to disrupt. And I've got to say, I've had a lot of fun doing it, because as an Evertonian, you're always on the side of the underdog. And I do like asking those questions. I've also done one really good thing, which I will reveal later. Because as a head teacher, you only get a good idea every 10 years. And that was my one, but I'll keep that under wraps for now.
Okay. You've certainly whetted our appetite now. That's how to build the excitement there, Peter.
It's not that good, actually, but I will let you.
No, we've built it up. Okay, the really, really useful sort of introduction to the topic. And colleagues, just to sort of let you know where we're going with this. So I have some questions because to kind of ask the panel, and then we're going to throw it open to some questions in the room, and then to questions to colleagues online. So just to let you know, kind of that's where we're going, but also to kind of think of what questions do you want to ask, because that this is a great and golden opportunity because the expertise is right here. So I think the first question I want to go to, and again, I've been touching upon it, but how do we make it sustainable? How do we make the kind of engagement of teachers sustainable? And I think you've all hinted at it and alluded to it. And for instance, whether it's about resources being there, co-creation, whether it's about building it into how teachers develop. So what are the other ways to sort of make sure, and having it in curriculum and things like that? What are the other ways to make it sustainable? How do we make it sustainable for teachers when we understand that workload remains an issue for those in schools and indeed those outside schools as well? But how do we make it sustainable? Who'd like to kick us off on that?
Can I just mention, when you talked about the workload, I do find that in the long term, if you're planning your lessons and your teaching with embedding the careers, the understanding happens quicker. So as soon as I've related it to real life, I've explained to the students, this is what career it relates to, instantly they can make that connection. Is that where it's used? Is that how I use it? So you've saved time on just reteaching the topic because the students have got it firsthand. A classic example would be, say, for example, I was teaching a topic on percentages, and students might just look at it and think, oh, it's just a number, it's a method, I'll divide this, I'll times that. But then as soon as you start speaking to them about, I start off my lessons as, okay, let's see, where do we see percentages in real life? So I'll throw a few examples in. They're in the shops, you've seen a percentage, your phone gets charged, that's the percentage. We discover what a percentage is, what it looks like, what the sign means. And all of a sudden, it's like a starting point for just a discussion. and other students chip in and they can see that reaction like straight away. Oh, is that how I use it? To me, that's more important than learning that skill. Because once they know why they are using it, how they are going to use it, they are more engaged. So you will explain to them once and they've understood because they relate it. And it also really helps them answer an application question because ultimately they are going to do an exam at the end of the day. We are going to test them. And we find students are very fluent in, if you teach them something, they're fluent, they can do the fluency. But it's all about application. And the moment they see an application question, they struggle. But if I've already spoken to them about if you go into a shop and there's a 20% sale off, and that question's talking about 20% sales, they can instantly apply that skill because they're ready for any question, basically. And I believe it's all because of the fact they can link the real life aspect of that topic to what they are trying to learn. All of a sudden, learning becomes meaningful to them.
This is fascinating. You're going to come in a minute, but absolutely fascinating because I think what you're saying, and it's such a persuasive argument, is this is great teaching. This is the maths.
Yeah.
Part of it is about the engagement. Part of it is about the applicability, but it's also great maths teaching. And it's sort of linking to prior knowledge or whatever that may have beyond the school as well as within the school.
Yeah.
So again, this idea that it's not the bolt on, it's actually fully integrated because it makes sense.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Great. Steph, go over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just love to add to that on what we've learned through the creation of Breakthrough Science. It's been a collaborative process over the last 2 years. And actually at the end of that creation process, we then actually tested out the resources on 98 students, both kind of in a couple of live lessons that we hosted at one of our sites and also actually in classrooms. And we got some kind of virtual feedback from teachers within the Academy's Enterprise Trust network. And 76% of the students agreed or strongly agreed that making the lesson link in with real life actually made it easier for them to learn it. So we have the evidence that that is true.
Thank you.
And it really works.
Excellent. So, and again, this kind of the real life examples. And again, I'm sure all of us have seen, sometimes with a real life example is shoehorned in, it never works. But with a real life example is authentic, then it kind of opens up a door to even greater knowledge. Because certainly kind of the aspirations, the success of our children once they leave school, part of it, a flourishing life is a flourishing career and a flourishing job or whatever that is. So therefore, the kind of the learning that we do, but also kind of what that will lead to in later life. Okay, great. Anybody else want to come in on that? Peter, go ahead.
From my perspective, the sustainability has to be linked to something powerful and to the mission. And the way I try and sustain it is by tenant and by supporting it and talking about it and coming down here and all of that things, because it's so integral to the mission of the school. I think from a head's point of view, it has to be public.
And I'm going to push you a wee bit further, okay, on that. But ultimately, by you prioritising that, you're maybe going to have to deprioritise something else, because in school everything's important. So I suppose how do you retain the kind of, because that sort of focus for your staff? So you're absolutely right, the communication and the over communication of it, the fact that it's top of your list. But how do you kind of build that in the staff, Peter, as well?
By disrupting the curriculum and actually saying the disruption is the bit. So there'll always be another maths lesson. Apologies, Fuzzy. There'll always be another maths lesson around the corner, but there mightn't be a chance to go on a Vinto challenge and have a 3-day residential. There mightn't be the chance to listen to a lawyer or visit a university or do a work experience with the housing association. And these real life experiences are the things that perhaps some students don't always have access to. There'll always be a maths lesson or a PE lesson that they might have missed that will repeat. The logic is after that quality of experience, they will engage better in the maths and the history and the geography because they can see a purpose. So deliberate disruption, fire starting, interference, whatever the tone is. I'll be honest, the curriculum can be pretty boring at times, can't it? If you've been in there since you're 2 and you're leaving it at 19, you've got plenty of it. We need that diversity and variety. And I've got to support that disruption, I would say.
Okay.
Mm.
Helen,
And-
you and then Victoria.
Adding to that, our head teacher is fantastic, and he always talks about destinations.
Yeah.
He says we're not a grade factory.
Yeah.
We're here to make sure we provide a holistic education for our students. And if it comes from SLT, it is then embedded within the culture. So you can walk into our school and the first thing you see are pictures of our alumni up. And if you become a teacher at our school, it is obvious that careers is part of what you do. He also has employed career staff, and he ensures that the SLT are checking the schemes of learning to make sure that those are in there. So it trickles down from the top.
And so again, really interesting to see both the kind of the leadership piece, but also the kind of what the structures and systems that kind of go right the way through to make sure that it's sustainable. Okay, brilliant. Victoria, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick up on this a little bit later, actually, but just that disrupting the curriculum thing that Peter was saying. So we've been working with Lancaster University and partner colleges and the local secondary schools and the local primary schools to try and develop a place-based curriculum that can sit alongside the national curriculum called the Morecambe Bay curriculum, which has come out of the I will talk about it later, but
No,
Eden,
tell us,
yeah, so,
tell us about it.
okay,
now.
well,
Let's
I'll talk
not
about it now.
stand on
Okay,
ceremony.
that's
Let's
fine.
go for it.
So in 2018, there was an announcement made that the Eden Project were considering building their new Eden Project in Morecambe, and that created a huge lot of interest for a lot of people, mainly at the time our principal, who phoned them up the next day and said, I want to provide your future workforce, and then got in the car and drove down to Cornwall. And since then we've had this we've built this relationship with Eden, but out of this has come this idea of a place-based curriculum which sits alongside the national curriculum, but where you are actually, it's all about trying to make young people see the aspiration of living and working and studying in the local environment. And you do that by getting them to appreciate the local environment. And you do that by introducing elements around green skills, but also environmentalism, conservation, what's on your doorstep, and you bring that into your curriculum. So when you're teaching geography, you're not just teaching about world geography, you're also teaching about local geography, the same with history. And that's what we're currently mapping at the moment. And we're looking at training teachers, and in primary and secondary and FE to actually be on board with this. We've got a level 4 teaching sustainable development course that we're running that's free for teachers. So there's all sorts of things where we can provide that support as part of this Morecambe Bay curriculum, which will hopefully disrupt things a little bit and will also raise those aspirations for those young people who live in our local area. And hopefully when Eden does get built, then they will be the future workforce for Eden, or take that message further out as well.
There's a massive number of implications there in terms of kind of how we build greater communities, you know, again, because sometimes, and you'll hear from my accent, I'm from Northern Ireland, but again, there was a perception, certainly at certain times in Northern Ireland's history, that to be successful, you had to leave. And it's the same in some of our local communities in England and across these islands. And yet the kind of idea of what is here in our community, valuing our community, seeing the brilliance and beauty, challenges and opportunities in a local community, again, is doing a whole number of things. I was about to say ticking boxes, but it's certainly not. It's doing much more than that. And I think what's interesting, I once heard the curriculum described as it's like getting a view from an upstairs window, because what it does, it allows you to see far further, but it allows you to reassess what's happening in your own back garden or your own street. And I think that can be really, really powerful. Okay, brilliant. Really, really interesting. Okay. I know we're slightly off the script, but I hope you don't mind, but because I think this is what's of such great value. Helen, I'm going to come back to you now, and I'm just, tell us a bit more about this kind of teacher encounters program. So some colleagues, I'm sure, will be familiar with it. Other colleagues won't. But tell us a bit more about that and kind of how it led not only to inspiration, which I think you've kind of talked about, but kind of what is the application of those encounters? How is it seen in the school on a day-to-day basis?
Right. We were invited to go on the Teacher Encounters project that the Buckinghamshire Careers Hub put together. So we were invited to go to Capgemini and also Pinewood Studios. So our head teacher supported the programme and asked if any teachers would like to join. So we had history, English, food tech, modern foreign languages and business. We went out. And it was really, really useful. I mean, I had been in industry, but it was 20 years ago. So my examples that I've been using in the classroom are a little bit tired now. So it's good that I've been able to update that. And some of the teachers had never been in industry. They're straight into to teaching. So it was an eye-opener for them. We all know that teachers work hard, but sometimes teachers don't realise that people out in industry are also working hard. So it was really good to see those dynamics. And it was great to speak to those teachers after their encounters, because the people who went out to Pinewood Studios, they didn't realise that it was actually attainable for our students. They didn't realise that Pinewood Studios find it hard to get carpenters. And that has been fed back into the technology department, and they're speaking about that with those people that are doing the woodwork, and that is aspirational. And they've been able to link up afterwards, and they've brought in, and a bit like you've been doing at Pfizer, you have to develop a lesson between the teacher and the employer. And it's really inspirational for the students. We're learning to do this because you could use it in this industry. It's also really useful for the teachers and the heads of departments that go out there, because they can change their curriculum. And Pinewood Studios, we need dress designers for costumes, and bringing subjects back to life in the classroom. It's been fantastic. And it's not just about careers in the curriculum, because all these teachers are form tutors as well. So they're having those conversations with their form group about the opportunities that are out there. It's been absolutely fantastic. It was a bit tricky to start with because teachers are really busy, and Capgemini and Pinewood Studios are really busy. So organising it was really difficult, and it really did take the head teacher. You had to give up a lot of hours, but they've got to be. They've got to be behind it, because if you're letting 3-5 members of staff out, you've got cover implications, etc. But what's been really good is, as the project's developed, the next round, they've changed the process on the number of hours that you're out and how to book onto those systems. And the other thing that's been really good about the project is it enables those links, because a lot of teachers don't have links with industry already, and we want teachers to be coming to us and saying, I would like a link, and sometimes we have to facilitate that for them.
And there's so many things that you've said there in terms of the richness of it. I think the first thing is, I'm sure the diversity of roles within even those two employers was vast.
Yeah.
And yet, if you ask some of our young people, especially those that maybe are sort of come from disadvantaged neighbourhoods, they will struggle to name the sort of vast array of kind of different employment opportunities that there are. So the fact that Pinewood employs carpenters, well, of course I go, yes, of course it should, but that wouldn't have been my first thought, if you like, or dress designers or whatever it might be. And so really, and I'm glad you're thinking about kind of what were the bumps in the road, because again, I'm sure cover things like this are difficult, but what it sounds like is you've found efficient systems to do that.
Yeah.
So I wonder, could I just come back to Victoria again on a similar sort of note, because that local curriculum, really powerful. How do you build the investment of all those different groups in it? Because again, the busyness, the challenge of individual schools or whatever, how do you kind of build the commitment and the ongoing commitment to it?
It is quite hard, but I think, there's a lot of positivity at the moment, especially around the idea of Eden. And so that has been a linchpin. But I think that, working with the primary schools, I know, we don't normally talk about primary schools when we're talking about careers, but we start working with year sixes doing primary education, doing careers education with year sixes. And that's quite simple. It's quite interesting, fun, interactive things that we do. But once you start working with the schools and they're on board with it, same with the secondary schools, we have a fantastic relationship with the schools because we put a lot of effort into it. And so, but it's a reciprocal thing. So it's not, it's the same with the employers, isn't it? So I see it as a cyclical thing all the time, really, is that we are working with the employers, we're developing those relationships with the employers. We're then putting on events that we're inviting primary and secondary schools to around careers, where they're then getting their Gatsby 5 and 6 because they're meeting the employers and they're bringing their students in. They're having the opportunity to take part in really interesting workshops for their students, and the teachers are getting this as well. We're doing some CPD for the teachers as well. So there is a reciprocal benefit for everybody.
Right.
But I do get that the time can sometimes be difficult, and we know from conversations with head teachers that they might be very keen to be involved in it, but they're time poor and they're resource poor, and it's about how we can try and work with them to do that.
Really,
it's not a very easy answer though.
No, but I think what the answer is, it's about, yes, the investment up front is challenging, but yet the benefits are significant. Do you know what I mean? And I think when we analyze choices that we make, we need to think of, okay, what are the upsides? And I think there's significant upsides that we're identifying, and that's how we'll help sort of prioritizing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really interested in, Fawzia, just about going back to the classroom again, and sort of how does this? You're obviously passionate about this work, and we can see that. It kind of it's really clear. But how do you create a culture where other teachers kind of follow your lead, if you like? Because that must be something else that kind of there's that phrase, what a good one looks like, WAGOL or whatever. Well, no, you're an example of a great one. So therefore, how do we get other teachers to kind of follow your lead? Like, how is that sort of spread out amongst other teachers in your school?
We talked about the real life uses before and how we introduced that, and we actually, even like simple conversations on corridors or just in and out of the classroom, somehow we get together and we discuss like what happened, what impact was it. So I quite often use my example for, I'll speak to colleagues about today. I showed them the career of an architect because I was teaching a subject like plans and elevations. And quite often students, like I said before, why am I doing this? Who does this? And why am I going to learn this? And straight away, they see that connection. And the lesson just went so well that they understood it straight away. And when we do introduce careers to students, they're chopped into like 4 areas. So we talk about the responsibility because quite often they don't know what the job is. They won't have heard of an architect. We talk about the skills that you should be able to do in this job. We talk about a salary. The students love that bit because they all want to earn a lot of money. So they start paying more attention. Yeah, we want to earn this money. What do we need to do? And then we link it to maths. And that link there to maths, all of a sudden is that what an architect does? So we show them an architect's plan. They got to do a side elevation, a plan, and all of a sudden, it's like you don't need to teach them because they can vision it. They can picture what they're trying to do. So these are the conversations we have with each other. So try this. I tried this. It really worked. The examples are endless. We taught translations just about moving an object. Again, students grasped it quite quickly. They knew how to do a translation, but that's a topic where there's some of them quite like, and they'll just do it. But you will get the question, where am I going to use that? And then as soon as I gave them the example of, well, an elevator is a translation. And all of a sudden it clicked again. Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, that's why we're moving the shape. So we just talked to each other about how can we get this message across to the students. The learning will happen, but they'll also take away other like beneficial skills away from it and just give them that full set of skills. But engagement in the classroom is absolutely brilliant if you introduce it in real life. We talk to each other. Sometimes it doesn't go as well. We say, try this. We'll come back to each other and we keep bouncing off each other's ideas until we've got that perfect model.
And that's what great professional dialogue is. Like,
Yeah.
that's those corridor conversations,
Yeah.
or try this and it didn't work. Using yourself as an
Yeah,
example.
what else? It fits
can
in
be
really
helpful.
nicely across the whole school as well. Because when we're talking about real life and careers, it's developing students' oracy skills. They become confident readers. The spelling, they pick up new words. They don't know how to spell. And the school's got a big push on literacy, so it really embeds quite well in that as well. So we try to encourage each other because it's developing those skills as well.
Brilliant. So, Steph, if I can come to you next. So, we've heard quite a lot on sort of, from the school side about the real value of kind of engaging with an employer. Could you tell us in a bit more detail about what that relationship looked like? You mentioned AET and sort of how you sort of made it work for them and how they made it work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we built quite a few, obviously, long-term partners for this project, but we've been working in the STEM education or kind of outreach, inspiring science world for a long time at Pfizer. We actually have a long-standing partnership with STEM Learning, and we run a lot of outreach through them, where we do more of the employer encounters type work, and our colleagues go out to schools or colleges or careers fairs and go and talk about what they've been up to. But yeah, working with the AET for us obviously was all about getting on the ground expertise in how to engage students, which is nothing, like, we don't do that every day. They do that every day. It's on science curriculum expertise. It's on kind of making those links that Fozia just said about linking to the subject and actually being able to pull out the topics of the curriculum that then can link to the life science industry or the STEM kind of sector more broadly. So getting that expertise from them. But for us as well, the program for inspiring science, this kind of breakthrough science level, rather than the outreach work, which is a little bit more kind of on the ground, maybe more locally impactful. Breakthrough science is all about having a national impact and maximizing the expertise of both the teachers that we were working with from the AET, but also sharing in a high impact way how, like, our expertise in science and in science careers and in applications of real world science, and bringing those two things together for every student. As Peter was saying earlier, it's all about how can we create something that's actually going to help every student or could impact every student nationally. It's relevant to them, it's engaging to them, it helps them learn more and better in the classroom.
Interesting point you made there about every student, because some students might not like a particular subject or they might not feel as academic, but we're continuously striving to raise their aspirations. So there's something for everybody out there. So you might academically think, why I can't do that, I'm not as smart, but we try to encourage them that there's something for everybody, because everybody can develop a skill. And it's really important. It's a really important point that you've raised there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think so. Again, great to hear that kind of there is an investment of time up front, but I think the time is so well spent. You learning about the curriculum, those teachers learning about kind of the expertise that you bring, and then building a resource that will last. Sort of, so there's something about like everything else, the upfront investment, but the worth and the value that you get over the medium and the long term. Great, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go to Peter. So Peter, you whetted our appetites earlier in terms of this great idea, this 10-year idea. So tell us a bit more about it.
Okay. Time is the idea. Time is the idea. And the example I'll give is I had a head of science who was coming to the end of her time as head of science. She's a very creative, emotionally intelligent lady who'd done a lot of work sort of at the edges of careers. And I said, retire and come back as my careers lead, and you can do whatever you want. You won't teach a lesson. You won't do anything apart from set up multiple layered projects. And what she's done in the sort of 3 years in that role has completely transformed careers from primary school to college. And she pesters the life out of me. and all of the teachers with Unifrog and Business Links and University Days. And in an area of rampant disadvantage, she's opened up the world of work, the world of higher education, the world of aspiration, and it's transformed the careers thing into curriculum mentoring, pastoral mentoring, and we discovered that young people like talking about themselves.
Who knew?
Who cared? And they are they've opened themselves up to experiences, whether it's medical science project, whether it's a website design project for SEND students, whether it's a link to the housing association and the built environment. The problem and the genius of my once in a 10-year is because there's a whole lot of goodwill for schools in the voluntary sector, in the business community, in higher education, but there is a blockage because schools are inward-looking institutions. They're interested in their decimal point for Progress 8. They're interested in their league table. They're interested in their whatever word you want to call it. Young people aren't. Young people want to know what's going to happen to them in the next 70 years of their life. And their parents are. In the same way I am for my children. I want my kids to have good lives. I don't really care about their school's league table, please. If I'm being really honest. And if we can get rid of that ego and actually open it up, I think that's a really good idea. And that's I've gone early. It's only 20 past 11. That's the idea, and it's time. It's the cost of that person's time to be the conduit from the external to the student, because a lot of the emails will bounce back. I just forward them to this lady, and she makes them happen most of the time. Some of them aren't very good ideas, so she filters them out, and that's okay too. So that's the genius idea, and we've transformed our careers provision because of that time and investment. And you can't do it as a teacher. She was a teacher. She has the teacher skill set. She's now got the blank canvas. And I think every school needs one. And I think that would be a pretty small investment on a national scale. But you've got to have the teacher skills, the teacher mindset, the willingness to go into the community. And then what we've got to do before she finishes, whenever that is, we've got to grow somebody who can take those connections and carry on. Her role now is to sort of work with other schools and spread that, because a lot of schools want that model, and it works.
And this is fascinating because, again, I think I've always found that the sort of the beauty and the challenge of this is that there's goodwill on both sides.
Yeah.
There's good intent on both sides, and there's a wish to do it on both sides. But I think sometimes you said that they're the conduit. You know what I mean? How do we make sure that kind of link up is really strong, is really sustainable? And I think having a colleague to do that, and then who can kind of be that kind of sort of link to the employer and employer back to the school is so valuable, because, as you say, the kind of the opportunities in sectors and also the willingness in our schools.
I met Ruben, a careers teacher in a big school in Liverpool, school of well over 1,000. I asked him how many hours a week did he have to do it, and he said 2. And that's not the solution, is it?
This is it. Okay, thank you so much, panel. I mean, I think we could talk here all day. There's no doubt we could, but there'll be, again, audience both online and in the room. There's some questions I'm sure that you'll have, so get those ready. However, first we're going to hear from May McCafferty, who is going to tell us a little bit about her experience in a recent teacher encounter, again, and its current and potential impact on her approach to careers across the curriculum. So, May, far away.
Hi, good morning. Can everyone hear me okay? That was fascinating because I found myself nodding to pretty much everything you're all saying. And as a classroom teacher, I think, Fazia, I totally hit the nail on the head with regards to engagement. I teach a lot of students who are very, I guess, apathetic. They just sit there. They don't really, and especially in the field of science, I'm a science teacher. and they find it really hard to make connections. And I think engagement is key. And I think if they can see where the science is, where it relates to real life, they are on board, and it makes your teaching life a lot easier. And like you said, in the long run, it's a lot easier. And I'm extremely on board with this. I'm extremely passionate about teaching, and about embedding careers into my lessons. I've been doing this for 15 years, but it's all of a sudden clicks now. And I think from having young children, I want to inspire them. I want to make them aware of the possibilities. And working in Khan, there are some pockets of deprivation, and I think it's a moral obligation for us as teachers and a school and our community to make sure we provide those PP students with this opportunities that they have in their future, and they don't normally get exposed to that in their home lives, and so it's really important that we do that. So yeah, absolutely on board with this. So recently I went on a teacher encounter meet with at Wiltshire Council. So again, that for me, like, great, I talk about it to the students and they get it because it's Wiltshire Council. You know, they live in Wiltshire. They understand they have a role. Wiltshire Council has a role. They might not know what role, but you know, for me, I went and as a scientist, I want to try and bring in some of the roles that they have in the public health, especially in public health in Wiltshire. And the gentleman that I met, a scientist, it was interesting because he told me a bit about himself. He told me that it wasn't necessarily his destination to be working in the environmental section in public health, but he had a kind of a twisted and turned kind of journey to get there. And he's absolutely brilliant. He's so invested in coming into school and talking to students about the different roles there. So yeah, I had a brilliant opportunity. I took it back into school. This was end of kind of last academic year. I arranged a little meeting, an interview with him on Teams to talk about his biography, basically how he led him to become a public health, having a public health kind of role within the public health. And it was incredible. I shared this with my year 10, so I'm trialing this with my year 10 separate scientists. So they are invested in science. They chose it as an option, and they were blown away because they wouldn't automatically see the science as working with necessarily with the environment. There's a lot of links to other subjects as well. They'd automatically think doctor, surgeon, nurses, so this kind of opened their eyes up a little bit. So my next step moving forward, I've got a meeting next week lined up, and I'm going to meet another colleague that he works with. He's more, I guess, into nutrition, into sports. So we are going to look at the curriculum from year 7 to 11, and we are going to try and figure out where we can inject more careers into the curriculum. I think I'm also a Key Stage 3 science coordinator. So for me, I think driving it from year 7, I think what some of you said, starting earlier is key. So that is kind of where we are looking, and they are keen to come into school to do either one-on-one meets. I also want to, I think you also mentioned that one of the key kind of focus was literacy. I think, Helen, you might have mentioned that. Fozia, did you? And our school is huge on this disciplinary literacy. It is. So this kind of informing our students of the possible careers could come in kind of article format, press release format. It can come in with in person. It could be potentially trying work experience in there, maybe not for a week as we traditionally have in year 10, but it could be a day or two. So yeah, that's where we're going. There's a lot of possibilities, and I'm so keen to get our students thinking about their future and thinking about the possibilities and aspiring. It's inspiring, aspiring as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, May. That really interesting, and it's great to hear the kind of employers kind of, I think you said it, the kind of sharing their sort of professional journey. And also the diversity of roles. I think it's really, again, I keep coming back to this, that I think I probably look at myself here and say, I think I was, and I probably shouldn't admit this, but I was certainly in my 20s before I knew what a consultant was.
Yeah. And
that's not good. That's not good. And yet that's just one whole domain area. But I just think opening our pupils' eyes to the breadth and diversity, even within a single employer, is
It's
fascinating.
huge. But it's an employer that has so many different areas and so many other subjects could actually tap into this. So it's in the infancy stage. I'm still kind of developing it and exploring, but it's about being creative. But if I can put in some of this work, then potentially other teachers might not have to pick up extra work. Is that extra load? You know, and so a small bit of investment now, picking time when I can, it will do so much. Yeah, benefit our students so much.
Excellent. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
May.
Thank
Really,
you.
really valuable. Thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to have some questions from the audience. And as said, first we're going to hear a few questions from the room, and then we're going to go on and see if there are questions from our colleagues who are joining us online. So I wonder, could you just put your hand up in the most traditional of senses? And then colleagues, there are some roving mics. So there's the first two there. Well done. This is always my most nervous piece. A colleague just in this row, and then a colleague at the back. Okay, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, I want to ask Helen. I know you said that SLT check your schemes of learning, and I have to do careers, and it's interesting the amount of hours it takes because I'm trying to do it as an assistant principal and a maths teacher, so I kind of feel all your pain. But do you also then monitor and check that it's actually being delivered? Because it's one thing planning, but my concern is my teachers will tick the box, which we don't like, and go, yeah, look at all this planning. But my concern is, do they deliver?
Yeah.
So do you get it? Do you monitor it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I monitor it in a couple of ways because we've progressed actually. And adding it to the scheme of learning has been relatively new because what I was doing in the past is each term I was going around with and doing an audit, basically seeing each of the curriculum leaders to check what they had done, all loaded up into Compass Plus, and then ticking off that it was completed. So yes, I go round and check that everything that was on that master scheme of learning has happened, and it's been uploaded now onto Unifrog, and then we transfer every half term up onto Compass Plus.
Gosh, and that's what we were saying about the number of hours where you were saying you need a separate person in a school because it's a lot of monitoring, isn't it? Extra.
It is, but it's getting easier and easier as we go along because I was having to push it before because they know I'm checking with the list.
Super, thank you.
Okay, great question. And again, getting to the sort of practical side of it. So really great. I think there was a question, a colleague just on the far side there. Brilliant. Well done. It's like a relay race.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Jake from Authentic Engagement. My question is for Steph. It's great to hear about the project you set up with Breakthrough Science, but I'd love to know more about the business value, you know, what's in it for the business. It's no secret that most businesses engage at university level, and when you're, you know, targeting sometimes 11-year-olds, it might be a long time before you see any sort of business value. So I'd love to know what the key outcome is. Is it just a CSR piece? Is it about recruitment? Is it about skill shortages? What does that look like for the business?
Thank you. Our main aim with Breakthrough Science is for us as a business to be building trust within our local community and also on a national scale. Trust in our business, trust in what we deliver, and kind of having that as both in the education sector, but also kind of in our industry and also kind of at a national government level as well. And it's something we're really proud of and we can talk about a lot. And it's kind of easier for us to talk about, whereas our kind of core science and stuff is all quite complex, and it's, you know, very some of it's obviously like intellectual property, early stage stuff, so we can't always talk about that. So for us it's like building trust about something that we can actually impact and we can share with the country. But also we have a number of incredible colleagues, but programs in our early careers space, and that kind of focus more on that recruitment piece and, you know, going to more university level targeting. So we have a whole range of apprenticeships. We have undergraduate placements. We have a graduate program, and we also have a virtual work experience program, which you can find on our website if you'd like to take part or your students want to. But all of those programs are more about developing future talent for the life sciences sector, and therefore obviously retaining some of that as well. I've been a beneficiary, is that a word, of both undergraduate programs and the graduate program. And we actually took this year 120 apprentices and undergraduates, which is about 5% of our UK workforce. So it's a large proportion of our talent is in that early space. So that's kind of all managed by our people experience team, by our talent acquisition team, and that's amazing. And it's all about building the skills there as well. You were saying earlier about not knowing what a consultant was till you're in your 20s. I didn't know about any of the jobs that are in the pharmaceutical industry until I went on my placement. And then I was 2 years into university and I was like, oh my God, there's so many things. And it's not just life sciences that I learned about. It's also just general business functions that I had no idea existed. Things like, people experience, finance, even like just kind of leadership level stuff that, are applicable to many industries. So yeah, it's about that. But then this side of it, this breakthrough science program, is actually about wide scale inspiring science, about building science skills and a kind of belief in the power of science. And that also helps to combat a lot of misinformation and just kind of being educated about science. It's the core of the point of this program is about building science capital. Has anyone heard that term before? Yes, it's about like what you know about science, who you know in science, how you apply science to your life, how you can see it links to your real life. So it's all about also building kind of global citizens that are aware of the power of science. And that's the aim of breakthrough science on this massive scale, whereas our recruitment activity is also incredible, but kind of the next stage and that earlier stage, whereas this is all about education throughout.
So there's a bit of a funnel going on there about how can we reach the widest audience and then to become sort of more specialist.
Yeah.
Victoria, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just going to pick it up from the sort of point of view of the work that we do with the employers. So in the area where I live and the area where the college is, we have a really vibrant electech cluster. We have a massive logistics and supply chain sector, and we have the energy sector. Very rarely when you're doing careers advice with 14-year-olds did they ever say, I want to work in logistics. But so our job is actually, our employer engagement team work really closely with a lot of those employers to look at ways that we can actually promote those opportunities to the younger people coming up so that they actually do become aspirational careers for them. So they do get involved with the careers work that we do from year 9, 10 onwards, really. We do a lot of work with the local schools. We see the college is part of the community, and my role as the careers lead isn't just to provide careers advice to our learners, it's for the future learners and the ones who may not even ever come to college, but just to make sure that that information is out there. So the electech cluster especially are really keen to do work because it's kind of a new industry and not a lot of people really know what it is, but there's loads of opportunities locally. And again, the logistics sector, and we're actually working with them and embedding that into our T-level business so that most of the work placement opportunities will be within that sector because there are huge opportunities, but nobody knows about them. So there is a really good reciprocal reason why employers would get involved in careers from quite an early age, I think, and just those new careers that are on the horizon that people aren't aware of yet, to be able to promote them, and it does become a recruitment opportunity for them. Yeah.
So Helen and then Fozia.
Yeah.
You've kicked off quite a that's great to hear. Okay, Helen, go ahead.
And adding to what you were saying there as well, students tend to know about brands such as Apple and Microsoft perhaps, but they don't know about other brands. So like Capgemini, yes, we know that would look great on your CV, but they don't. And going out and creating these lesson plans with Capgemini, we were talking about other companies like Deloitte and EY, and the students hadn't heard of those. So when I'm saying, oh, there's these opportunities you could apply for, they're like, oh, who are they? An up and coming organisation. Like, no, they're amazing people to work for. So we need to get those names out there. And another company that comes in a lot with us is Softcat. And we find because they work with our students a lot, we are now a talent pipeline for them, because we know that our students will apply to them regularly because they work with the students. They've seen them all the way from year 7 onwards.
So there's a longitudinal piece there that's really valuable. Yeah. Excellent. Fozia.
Yeah. I just think it's just carrying on from what you guys said. It's so important for the students to see what is out there. So for example, Our school does work safari days where you go along and they maybe go into the hotel industry or maybe a construction site. So not long ago, they went on to visit a construction site. A lot of them were quite reluctant to, like, especially some of the students in my form. I don't want to do that, so I don't really want to go on this trip. But they came away from it and they were so glad they went there, because to the students, it just looked like construction is all about, maybe I'm just going to be working with bricks and I need that skill to maybe do a bit of bricklaying. They came away from there and the vast amount of careers that they were exposed to, that they came back, some of them having conversations with me. Oh, now I understand why those equations you teach are so important. I would like to work with them calculating like what steel beam needs to go in this building. They just thought somebody comes along and builds this building. There's so much going on behind it, like the planning part, the architectural part to it, and they were just amazed. And it made my job easier as well, because they could make that connection. Okay, this is why I need to do this.
So great to hear, and brilliant kind of to hear that from a number of different perspectives and the sort of power and opportunity that's there. Sophie, I'm just going to go to you. Sophie, are there any questions from our online audience?
Yes, the chat has been very busy this morning. And I think one of the things that has come through, maybe as a sort of theme for people to pick up on, is it sounds like Peter and other people on the panel have got SLT members who are very supportive of careers across the curriculum, the investment in time. What's the sort of one takeaway people could have for helping to move things forward in their school environment if it isn't currently so proactive in careers across the curriculum, investment of time to people to go out on things like teacher encounters or cover challenges with investing in CPD? What's the sort of takeaway of something that people in those school settings or college settings can do to start moving this agenda forward in their setting?
Great question and great theme. So how do we make it work? When time is so crucial, how do we kind of make it work for where there perhaps isn't the investment? So Peter, I'm going to come to you first. So how do we make this work in a different, possibly a different environment from yours?
Have the argument. Have the conversation. Sell the benefits.
And how do we do that well? Because again, you're absolutely right. But how do we do that well?
I think it comes back. Most schools will have mission statements about raising attainment, raising achievement. Most schools will have a set of values. Track it back to that. Our school set of values is called the Aspire values, and the A in Aspire stands for achievement and aspiration. And we sell that. We sell that as a sort of code of values for life. I would have thought most schools would say we value achievement. It's about what that actually means and having a really deep conversation about the values that drive the institution. And if the values that drive the institution are going down a road of league table, progress 8, Ofsted, then you might be barking up the wrong tree. But most head teachers would be interested in the long-term hopes and aspirations and opportunities for their students. And that's when I mean the argument. Have that genuine debate about why we're here. Track it back to that. Because it's what we want for our students, our own children, I think.
Okay, that's a great start. So linking it to the values and the vision, because again, we all want the best for our pupils. We all want the best for our young people, and therefore that's a great place to sort of start the discussion. Okay, Helen, what would you say?
It is really tricky for those people who haven't got SLT writing. I really feel for them. And I think when we look at our Careers Hub, there is support from other schools around you. And maybe if your head teacher isn't as supportive, is maybe you could link in to another school's head teacher. And I know our head teacher has supported others with that. And I think lead by example. Give good little wins. This is what we've done in maths, or this is what we've done here. And the teacher encounters project has been good as well, because you give CPD to the other members of the staff. When you come back, you share your experience, and then you hope that and then inspires other teachers to then do the same thing. And if you can share that experience with other schools as well, hopefully that would help.
Great. Okay, so I hope we're writing all this down. This is gold dust here, because I think so. It's that link to the sort of vision and values and the outcomes for the school. There's then the kind of quick wins piece and the investment in terms of the opportunity to develop others. Okay, Peter, you're
Sorry, there is the thing that it does sit in personal development for Ofsted. Just being Ofsteded, they absolutely loved it.
Okay. Yeah. No. All of these things matter. They all matter. They're all opportunities to kind of engage the discussion. Okay, Fozia, I'm going to come to you, and then Steph and Victoria.
It is about sharing the vision. So our school is SLT is really supportive. So it's about just having those conversations about this is, and encourage the students to see the bigger picture. And we've all got that consistent approach where we're committed to raise aspirations and mitigate that impact of social disadvantage. So by embedding the careers into the curriculum, and it kind of like satisfies that vision, because if we're putting careers into the curriculum, we're well on our way to giving these students the best start in life, because they're getting that knowledge right from year 7.
Excellent. And all schools, certainly schools that serve different communities, will have that at their heart. How do we make
that's the
best?
end goal.
Okay.
And we just all share that vision. And
Great.
this is the great way to do it, through careers.
Okay. Steph.
This is a shameless plug, but it could be as simple as sharing a link. Pfizer is probably very different to what people, like the name that teachers and SLT come across every day. You probably don't see it very much. But if it's as simple as just sharing the link, for example, to our program, it's just a case of downloading it and having a look. It achieves multiple, it's designed to achieve, and it does achieve multiple purposes. It's science curriculum, it's careers curriculum, it's Gatsby benchmarks, and there's teacher guides that take the teachers through exactly what the content is. It's pulled directly from the AQA science specification, and there's points on the teacher guide for literally which sections it hits, biology and chemistry topics across all the way up to GCSE, across all those age groups. And so if it's as simple as sharing a link, you don't have to use all 4 lessons, just have a download, have a little look, which one, do you want to teach clinical trials in a couple of weeks? Great, well, you can use this. Or you want to talk about how you test for purity of a product. Like, it's not a very glamorous topic, but actually with the resources we've built together with the CEC and AET, it does make it a little bit more interesting, and it hits then all those multiple points. So if it's as simple as just sharing the link to have a little look, there's everything on there, and then there's the videos as well, which are 2 minutes of your time.
So again, the investment, you've built the thing, and therefore
quite regularly, and we chat and we talk about ways that we can support each other. And I feel like I'm in a really privileged position, because we are so embedded with careers that we are able to then support our local schools by putting on events that they can come to. So that careers leader who's only got 2 hours a week doesn't have to spend that time trying to put on an event in their school. They can come. We've got the facilities, we've got the links with the employers. So I would say go and find yourself a friendly FE college and build that relationship with their careers lead.
That's really persuasive as well. I think all of those, again, really great insight. No, all of those are so valuable. You don't have to do it yourself. Yeah. What the good one looks like, what is the core of the curriculum, what is an easy way to start. I think all of those really, really valuable. There's one more, I think time for one more quick question in the room. And it's unfortunately, it's right at the front here. I do apologize. Well, let's see if we can get to do it. Go ahead. Share your question. And Oh,
So you've given us some really great advice about how to engage SLT, who might not have quite been so on board with this. Can you give any advice to careers leaders who also need to get some teachers? We've got some fantastic, really, really passionate teachers here today. But what about the ones who aren't, who are too busy, who are disenfranchised, who aren't on board with this? How can we bring those into the fold?
okay, great. Hold that thought. The colleague there, there was just at the just midway there. Great. Give us your question as well, and let's see if we can wrap these up together.
Yeah, mine is quite similar actually.
Okay.
Mine's going one level lower, which is parents. So you said that parents are a huge influence on young people. In fact, I think Helen, you said it was the most influential. So just saying, we've got all these careers in the curriculum being added in, being integrated across schools, starting to inspire pupils. So how do we bring that down a level to actually educating the parents in that area too, so that when they're going home and talking about these experiences, the parents get it as well and they back them with that?
Okay, so now panel, we're under orders here, okay? These are one-liners now. Who wants to start with?
I'll start with the question of taking the teachers on.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
go for it.
It's all about having the conversation and talking to them about, I've done this and I have actually seen the results. Students are getting it straight away. What better than to do a student voice? So if you speak to the students, say, ask Mike, just come in and speak to the students and see what they say, because I'm pretty confident they're going to say that it's making more sense to me.
Okay.
So a student voice would be good.
Okay, great. Helen?
And you do get them, and it is difficult, and I totally understand the time constraints that teachers have got, because I'm a teacher as well. I have to be a little bit more forceful, and I'll actually sit down and I'll say, pick an area that is maybe a dry topic that the students aren't that engaged with. Let's have a brainstorm. What could we do? And I handhold them and come up with maybe some links. I will, if I don't know a contact, I will contact my EAs, my ECs, and we will find a contact and build something, and we'll put that in. And often, and I'm surprised about this, because teachers, we like to talk a lot, and we tend to be quite confident, and we'll talk to lots of people, but a lot of teachers are not confident talking to people in industry. It is a real surprise. There's so many times where I'll send an email to an employer, and then the teacher will come back to me, and then I'll go back to the employer. But you have to be patient, and I will set something up with that curriculum area, and then hopefully the year after they'll do it themselves. But often not. Often I'll say, you remember this time last year we had to do this, and eventually it will become a thing. It's in the scheme of learning. They know that they should be doing it, but it isn't something that they'll do on their own, some of them.
Okay. Steph, you were nodding along there in terms of the kind of a dry topic. So I wonder, do you want to tell us?
Yeah, it just reminded me when we first started this work, we ran a focus group with the CEC to actually understand those drier topics in science. And with a group of teachers, they identified the four different topics that we'd then built the lessons on. But it's kind of taking those things that maybe it's like, oh, we'll just get that done in the lesson, or you have to do it today. Just kind of, it actually makes them, almost elevates that topic to make it more interesting.
Which again is solving a challenge that teachers have. In terms of, right, we're doing this topic again. We know nobody really likes it.
I think the more staff do it in the lesson, they'll realise actually this is really beneficial. If I was going to take this over 2 lessons, I've managed to do it in 1. So that's because the students have understood straight away, they can make that, and that's all to do with relating to where you're going to see this.
Okay, parents and carers. Victoria, can we start with you and then go to Peter?
I'm just going to use one example for parents, because obviously when they're coming to us, they're 16, so they've already been through the career stuff at school. But when we've got our open days and we get young people, we offer esports as a qualification, and every single time we get parents who say, I'm not letting him sit around for 2 years playing games. And so what we've done is we've created a careers wall. So we've got a big vibrant careers wall outside the studio that talks about all the different careers within that industry, talks about the money you can make in the industry, but also outlines the fact that your son or daughter will not be sitting around playing games for 2 years. But you have to get them on the campus to see it. But it is a bit about chipping away at some of that for us, because they're already 16, just chipping away at some of that understanding of what a vocational course can be. We have the same with football studies as well. They're not going to play football all day either. But, you know, it's just getting that message across to parents.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's really valuable, you know, to understand, because again, we all care about what our children are going to do. And therefore we want to make sure that there's an opportunity at the end of it. And I think that's what you're spelling out. This is going to create the greater likelihood of multiple opportunities. Okay, great. Peter.
Careers champions in every faculty, in the faculty development plan and school development plan for the first question. Second question, liaise with the parents, set up mini parents' nights, have conversations, sell the benefits of the employability and the long-term nature of the project. Time consuming, but really powerful.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, colleagues, now unfortunately I think we're going to come to an end on the questions, but thank you so much for those questions, both in the room and to those colleagues online, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to more of them. I'm just going to say that the part of the reason I wanted to do this is I wanted to learn a massive amount, and therefore being able to learn a huge amount from you all has been just so instructive about how we can support our teachers, our leaders, our schools and our communities to develop this work, and so that they can have flourishing careers and flourishing lives. So thank you so much for that. And I'm going to hand over to Nicola. So Nicola, you will finish us out. Thank you so much. Nicola is the Director of Education at the Careers and Enterprise Company. So thanks, Nicola.
Thanks, Ruben. And thanks to all of our panellists today. It's just inspiring to hear the range and coverage of the topic that we've addressed this morning. And when we were putting together this particular excellence seminar, it was really quite challenging in its composure, because we could have taken this topic in multiple different directions, from the aspect of really sophisticated curriculum design, co-curricular design in partnership with employers, that has real national systemic impact and benefit, all the way through to how do we inspire teachers, every teacher in a school community, to be able to have a confident careers conversation with a young person in their classroom. And that's what some of this is about for me. Sometimes people say to me, oh, we need every teacher to be a teacher of careers. Like, I'm not sure we do, actually. Sometimes I'd like it if every teacher could have a conversation with a young person about the pathways out of their subject area. Because when I was at school and when I was teaching in my early teaching career, that was, I want you to go to university to study a subject and be as passionate about it as I am. But actually now those pathways are much broader, much wider. There are jobs that we don't understand. If we saw the title of them, we wouldn't be able to describe. So all of these interactions are really where students take so much of their influence from their teachers. And so the application and the realism and the relatability of careers and pathways in the curriculum, for me, is as important as being able to design a curriculum that teaches tricky concepts through pedagogical design. So no matter where you are in your journey, and we accept that this is a challenging journey, no matter where you are, we think and hope that this morning we've been able to demonstrate that there's an opportunity for every teacher to be able to engage in this topic in a way that's right for them in that moment in time. I'm not expecting that every teacher in the country goes away and revisits their schemes of work overnight as a consequence of this type of work, but I think we have an opportunity to really influence. And from a parental engagement perspective, that for me is really important. Teachers as a large body have the most touch points with parents in a school, from the context of parents' evenings, parents' interactions, for engagement in particular, etc. And so to be able to have those conversations about pathways, choices, transitions is also incredibly important. So thank you to everybody for showing us that your way of engaging in this topic is vast, and there are opportunities for everybody. Now, I make no secret of the fact that my mission and the reason that I do this job is to help all teachers, I'm from a teaching background, is to help all teachers be able to understand and inspire their learners through the lens of careers overall. And it's really exciting for me that our work moves closer and closer every single day to the world where we are working with huge providers such as the National Institute of Teaching, to be able to really think about how we can help those providers to equip new teachers, early careers teachers and leaders through their NPQ programs to really understand how they can make an impact on their schools through this particular agenda. And that's something that we will continue to work on over the next couple of years with real passion and integrity from the CEC. So hopefully there's been something for everybody to take away today. And also, the last thing for me to end on is I was really delighted to hear the work of the careers hubs come through the conversation this morning, because we've spoken about how isolating this work can be sometimes, how difficult it can be to do on your own. But your careers force are your workforce. They are there to help and support you and to convene those local networks to make your lives easier where possible. So go out there and think hard about how careers fits into your subject area and into your conversations, and really enjoy the benefits that have been described by our colleagues here today. Thanks so much for coming. Please do take a moment to fill in the evaluation form that will be sent to you as a consequence of your registration for today. And we hope that everybody has a great weekend ahead of them. Thank you.